Hello everyone, this is Paul the Oakenite coming to you with a playthrough of GMT's Storm Above the Reich. In Storm Above the Reich, you are the head of a rather large German Staffel of interceptor aircraft, and your job is to stop the never-ending flow of Allied bombers from dropping bombs on your homeland. You have several options where to begin the game. We will go ahead and start in early 1943, which is the very beginning of the Allied bomber campaign. Each of these is referred to as a season. So early 1943 is a season, and potentially you could play through the entire war with your squadron and see how you do or how long you can last, because the game will end if you don't achieve these goals or if you fall below these bars. One is the minimum number of pilots you have left. You start with 18. So in early 1943, we can't go below 14, which would be a lost condition. And we can't lose more than 8 aircraft during the first season, early 1943. Each season has separate victory conditions as far as the victory points you need to win and the victory points you need not to lose. So we have to score at least 10 points in early 1943 or it's a loss. The season is a loss. And if we score 20, it's a win. We have 6 missions, and we have 4 expert pilots out of our 18 in our Staffel. The first thing we do to fly a mission is to actually generate the mission through a series of die rolls that are done on a couple tables. The first table is on our mission setup chart. Early 1943 is here. We roll for which of the maps we're going to be on, so we'll either be on map 5 or 6. There are 4 maps in this game, and there's 4 maps in the previous game, so they number them sequentially, including the other games, so that you can combine the 2 games together. We're either going to be on map 5 or map 6 in early 43, which is okay. It's the smaller of the 2 maps, and I think for purposes of managing a video, that's a good thing. We also roll to determine whether the mission is inbound, near the target, or outbound. We get more victory points for shooting down bombers inbound than we do outbound, for obvious reasons. And near the target will also involve a flak procedure, which the bombers, and potentially we, have to fly through. We get our number of op points. Op points are the points you use to buy the equipment and aircraft that's going to be on the mission. And finally, on this table, we have the escort. This is a light escort versus a heavy escort. It looks like we can't get a heavy escort in early 43. I'm fine with that. And there is a possibility of having no escort at all. There can be different types of aircraft in the escort. So the T's are the P-38s, S's are Spitfires, K's I think are P-40s. Alrighty. So and each of those have a little bit different performance level, or in game terms, a different chart that they roll on to see what they do to you. I've already done the rolls for the first mission. And we can see here that for mission 1, we're in early 43, we are on map 6, which is the map you see in front of you. We have 6 op points. You can buy 6 points of stuff, and we are an outbound mission. The mission also has no escort. The next thing you have to do is use this manual to find out more detail about the bomber squadron that you're going to be attacking. So, we can see here we are on map 6. And we are outbound, so that puts us on page 11. Page 11 puts us on this chart, which represents which bombers are going to be taking hits prior to our mission starting. These guys are now in the outbound part of their mission, and they've already been hit in certain cases and possibly have taken losses. So in this case, I rolled a 9, and so we're going to be over here. I'm going to put a potential loss on each of these 2 bombers, and we'll go ahead and roll that in a second. In addition to the damage, you have to roll to see if the flight is anchored. You have to roll to see if the bomber formation is anchored, which is to say, does this squadron have another squadron that's not represented directly in the game, but is there another squadron that's going to have influence on this combat because it's so close? Remember, this is a bomber squadron that is part of a multi-squadron raid, most likely, and if they're close enough, they can support each other. So that's what this die roll represents. Where the sun is, and we see the sun here is at the 3 o'clock. I rolled down here, and I ended up with the sun at 3 o'clock. You also roll for the number of tactical points you have. The tactical points are useful to get you out of bad situations and also have your aircraft maneuver more quickly as they try to get in position to do their attack. Flight limit is basically a fancy term for the number of turns that you're going to fly, and contrails we won't have to deal with in early 43 because contrails are only around on the larger maps, so that would be map 7 and 8. Okay, and we'll never see map 7 and 8. All right, let me go ahead and show you this map and show you what we need to do to resolve the two potential hits that the formation has already potentially taken. And here is the enemy/allied squadron of B-24 bombers on their way to, and actually in this case it's not Germany. Early 43 only has Italian planes that you can bring in aside from your own squadron, so I assume this is somewhere in the Mediterranean. The enemy B-24 squadron consists of 4 elements of 3 aircraft each. Each element is a defensive unit within the game, and we'll see how all that works in just a few minutes. But we have 4 elements, each element with 3 aircraft. The other map that we could be dealing with will have 6 aircraft printed on the map, but it's all one big element, which is a disadvantage for the bombers. All right. The 2 bombers that may be hit are, well, this guy's one of them, and I went ahead and put the counter down, and this guy over here. The number printed on the counter is basically a saving roll. If the saving roll is not made, you see the downward arrow on the counter. That means the bomber will have fallen out of formation. It's not destroyed, but it will have fallen out of formation. It will count for some victory points. And unless you're playing the advanced game where you actually chase down bombers that have fallen out of formation, then we're done. We take the victory points, our pilots get experience, and that's it. The other possibility is that the aircraft could blow up. It could be immediately shot down. To be shot down, however, it would have to be with one of these counters that has the explosion on it. So we know that this plane is not going to get shot down, although it could be forced out of formation with this possible fuselage hit. With this wing damage marker, it could in fact be shot down immediately. Okay. The other way an aircraft gets shot down if you accumulate 10 points. So if we don't get the critical hit, the counter is flipped, and what you see is the number of damage points, and the W refers to the advanced game where you're basically flying a miniaturized version of B-17, Queen of the Skies. Again, I am not going to do that here because that's, in my view, that's getting down into the weeds a little bit too far. To trigger the catastrophic result on this bomber, we have to roll equal to or greater than the number printed on the counter, which is an 8. We rolled a 2, which means no catastrophic result. Likewise, with the second bomber, we required an 8 or more. We got a 3. No catastrophic result. In both cases, we flip the counters and find the number of damage points delivered. On one, it's a 0. The other is a 3. Now, just because it's a 0 doesn't mean that it doesn't affect the bomber. As you will see, each counter in the element will have some impact on that element. And now we get to go shopping. We have 6 points to spend. Each one of our own squadron's fighters costs 1 point, and they are always available throughout the campaign. The other thing we have here are these Italian planes. They cost 1 op point for 2 or 1 for 1. Why you would only take 1 plane instead of 2, I have no idea. So we'll be spending some points on getting some Italian support. And part of the reason for that is that we don't want to take losses in our squadron, so maybe we can be a little bit more aggressive with these Italians. Over here, you say these are available from early 1943 on, and these are the only aircraft that we can bring in. There is also equipment that we can buy, and in this case, looking at the time requirements, the only thing we can do is strap some cannons underneath our aircraft. It reduces our effectiveness air-to-air, increases our effectiveness against the bombers. Now in this case, since we know there's no escort this mission, we could go ahead and be a little bit more aggressive and strap on some cannons, but I'd rather bring some more aircraft. So that's what we're going to do. So what I'm doing in this first mission is using 4 of our own squadron's aircraft and bringing in 4 Italians. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 point for the 2 of them, and 6, using up our 6 points. 2 of the pilots that we're bringing from our squadron are actually experts. They have some special abilities. Let's see, this guy, he's quick. He gets to change mode, and we'll get into what that means in a little bit. And this guy's a flyer. He will have less chance of colliding with other aircraft. So it's a good thing to have. Each one of these counters can only be used once during the mission, so it's a single-use thing, but it's a good thing to have. All right, that's our team. We're now ready to start turn 1. The first phase of every turn is the movement phase for the German fighters. The German fighters start off the map, and on the first movement turn, they enter the map, and they are required to enter the low maneuver box for any one of the 4 vectors that they can come in on the Allied aircraft, that being 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 3 o'clock, and 9 o'clock. And what I've elected to do here is to put the German fighters right on the nose, so they're here at 12 o'clock low. The Italian fighters are over here at what I'll call 3 o'clock low. It says 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock. It's just easier to say 3. So 3 o'clock low. And clearly the Italians are hoping to get to high altitude so they can take advantage of the sun. It's always a good thing to be diving out of the sun, don't you think? Well, we can do that here. Next phase. Return phase. In the return phase, fighters that are in the so-called return boxes, which is here and all around, there's high and low. Each of the 4 aspects has high and low return, standard and evasive. So the fighters that are in return boxes do not move in the movement phase, they move in the return phase, unless they have unresolved damage, in which case they do not move. Escorts, we have no escorts. Recovery, that's where we resolve hits on the German fighters. There are no hits on German fighters, we do nothing. Blast and flak, if we were shooting rockets at these bombers, then it would be resolved here, or flak. Which, since this is an outbound mission, there is no flak. Cohesion. Every element, remember elements, has to be evaluated and possibly rolled for disorganization. To do that, you have to roll equal to or less than the number of counters on the element. So we have 2 elements, this guy and this guy, that each have 1 counter. That's why a 0 counter can actually still have some effect. If you roll the number of counters or less, the unit breaks down into a less cohesive formation, and it affects their defense abilities. So now I'll go ahead and roll for each of the 2. I get a 3, so these guys are okay. A 9, okay, nobody goes disorganized. There's only 1 chance in 10 of that happening. Now it's attack. For there to be an attack, somebody would have to be in a so-called approach box, and the approach boxes are here. So they're going to have to go from the normal maneuvering boxes where they're kind of at a distance trying to maneuver around the bomber formation to get into their attack vector. And here is where they actually start moving in towards the actual attack. We don't have any Germans inside an approach box, so there are no attacks on turn 1. That's it for turn 1. The first thing we do in turn 2 is, again, the movement phase. This is where the fighters get to move. The Allied fighters are referred to as escorts. So the Germans are fighters, the Allies are escorts. In this case, our options are to go into the low nose attack vector, okay, to go up 1 level to get to 12 o'clock level, or to pay a tactical point and go up to high altitude. We can also change to the flank or the tail with a few different options. Okay, so we can try to say, well, I don't like being on the nose, let's go try someplace else. In this case, I like the nose. I think I'm going to go up one level. We have no Allied fighters here, so we can kind of take our time a little bit, and clearly here, we want to move. And clearly here we want to go ahead and start climbing up with the Italians to get them to a higher altitude. That's turn 2 movement. And the only thing that's to do left in this turn is the cohesion rolls for the 2 Allied bombers. That takes a 1. This is 1 counter. He got a 7. And the second formation got a 1. All right, so what happens? What this does is to make this entire element loose, which gives them a -1 detriment on all their defensive rolls and makes them more vulnerable to attack. This marker affects all 3 aircraft in the element. And the last thing in turn 2 would be an attack, but none of the German aircraft are in approach boxes, so there is no attack. We're on to turn 3. For turn 3, the Italians are going to continue their climb to high altitude so that they can take advantage of the sun. And the Germans are actually going to go into the approach box, from which they can execute their attack this turn. Next phase, return phase, there is no movement in return boxes. There are no fighters in the return box. The next thing that happens is to check to whether bombers are disorganized. So we have 2 markers now on this formation. So 1 or 2. 1 or 2, and the formation degrades further. It is a 10, the formation does not degrade. Were it to degrade, the next step down would be kaput. That's not good. Formations can improve their status from kaput to loose, but once you are loose forever. So it's not good being loose, because you can't get rid of it. All right, next. Do I roll a 1 for these guys? No, I do not. So these guys do not go loose. All right. We did the cohesion checks. Next is the attack from the German fighters that are coming in. Now let me just touch on the map just a little bit and what these numbers mean. This is the defensive value of the square. Okay? Each aircraft has 4 squares around it that are its primary defense zone. And the numbers you see printed on the square is how strong that defense zone is. So, for example, if you're flying in the middle of these 3 bombers, it's got a 3 defense. If you are flying to the nose, it's a 2 defense. And likewise the sides. Some have conditional support, so this guy, he's kind of on the edge, so he's a 1, but if this flank were anchored with another squadron that's off map, then it would be a 2. It would get a +1. So you just look at the map and apply the modifiers, and that's the starting point for what you're dealing with. As bombers get shot down, there'll be additional effects. When a bomber goes down, it's only going to affect the 4 squares that are its influence zone. But some things affect the entire element, such as being loose. So this entire element of 3 bombers is -1 on its defense, which is going to be 9 squares. 1, 2, these 3, and those 3. All those squares are going to be -1 on their defense because of that loose marker. Can you guess where our target is going to be? It's not good being a loose bomber. And so here we are with a level approach, which means that's why we have the 1 level marker underneath. 1 blue square. If it were high altitude, there would be 2. If it was low, there would be none. And I've elected to split up this attack into 2 fighters going after each of 2 bombers. This guy took flak damage earlier in the mission, so he's only got 4 points left. So I don't want to put everything on him, but I do like to take advantage of him. And this guy, we're going to start working on the lead of the 3rd element here. Remember that the victory for the game is that we have to score at least 10 points to not lose, and we have to score 20 to win. Outbound bombers only give you 1 victory point each. So it's really, we got to get 3 or 4 bombers shot down here. It's tough. That is a tall order. Okay, so let's go through this attack procedure. The fighters have to be allocated to their squares. We did that. If they are attacking from out of the sun, they become eligible for a marker that shows that they are attacking out of the sun. Each fighter has to select a mode, whether to be determined or evasive themselves. At this point, I think I'm going to take advantage of Bear, who's got the flyer ability. He draws 2 proximity markers to determine if there's a collision instead of 1. He takes the better of the 2. So I will have these guys come in determined. And let's see. Well, if I want to take advantage of the Schwarm, everybody's coming in determined. Next thing is we check to see if there were any collisions. To do that, we pick 1 aircraft out of each square that has at least 2 interceptors. So we have 2 such squares, so each one will be given a marker, and I get to pick which aircraft it's going against. So in this one, since Haas is not an expert pilot, we're going to go ahead and put that on there, and that pole had no impact, so there was no proximity collision. For Bear, we pick 2, and he gets, well, something. He's got something. Let me figure out what this is. The V is for veering, and since we're coming in determined, it would cause both of these aircraft to veer off and abort the attack. I think I'm willing to press, so I'm going to select the hit marker, and if evasive, this would be no effect. It's good to be evasive. It makes you harder to hit and you take less damage, but in this case we're going on in, so he gets a hit marker. Bear gets a hit marker. Okay, he gets that. It is a wing hit. But we have ways to get rid of that. There are 3 attack advantage attributes that can get assigned to these attacks. The first one is Schwarm. Schwarm. What Schwarm does is it gives us 2 free hits against the bombers. So it's a good thing to have. And you are eligible for it if the element is attacked by 4 fighters not coming from the oblique angle. We have 4 fighters not coming from the oblique angle attacking the element, not an individual bomber, but the element. The second requirement is that they must be of the same type and have originated from the same approach box. They are the same type and they originated from the same box. So we have Schwarm going for us. Second thing is Rot. Any space that has 2 or more fighters, we have 2 spaces with 2 or more fighters, we get 2 of these. And the final possibility is position advantage. To do that, you have to have fighters coming in from more than 1 angle, and everybody's coming from the same place. So there is no position advantage here. So we have two counters, and what this does is that negates a hit. So we're going to use one of them, and this hit on Bear goes away. All right. We have to select the maneuvers that the fighters are going to be using. And what the maneuver is, it determines which of the 4 primary vectors you're going to end up in. So these guys have come head on, but where are they going to end up? So for example, if we do a straight maneuver, we're going to end up on the tail. We could do a roll maneuver and end up on either the 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. And then each of those can also be climb or dive, which will determine whether we are high or low after we execute this. Both elements are going to go ahead and go do a straight climbing maneuver, so I put the straight climb on them. And also note that when Bear used his ability, this counter was picked up off of him. It is now used. You only get to do it once. At this point, we go ahead and actually execute the attacks and see what happens. To do the attack, each aircraft will pick a single card to represent the results of the attack, and the card is going to depend on which direction they're coming from. So we're coming straight on nose, and so that's the card deck we're drawing from. Let's start down here. So let's start with Clausen. And here's Clausen's card. Now, He's attacking in an area that has a 2 defense base. We are attacking into a loose formation. That turns it into a 1. That's all the modifiers that I see here. So, let's see. We are coming in level. We're coming in level. We are coming in non-evasive. That's the gray row. We have a level 1 defense. So, in this case, we take a hit. The bomber takes a hit. Plus, the 2 is how far beyond this point we fly. Since we're going head on, we're going to be going blitzing past him. So Clausen takes a hit. So to resolve this card, I have gone ahead and moved Clausen 2 hexes forward, or 2 squares forward. Here's his hit. And here is the hit on the bomber. We have not done the critical roll yet. We do have a couple more options. Clausen is an expert pilot, and what his ability does is it lets him change his mode at any time he wants. So I assume it means that literally. So right now he went in determined. He could change it to evasive, but he would go farther, but he would lose his hit. So that's not a good thing. So we're not going to use that ability. The second thing we can do is apply one or both of the swarm hits. And we have one more. I can wait. I can see what the second fighter does before I use that up. The third thing we can do is use the rots, and I think we will do that. So when we use the rots, the hit goes away. So Clausen is no longer hit, but we've already used up our special defenses. So everything after this is going to count. All right, we have to roll. See if we roll a 9 or a 10 to actually blow up this aircraft. It is a 9. Well, there it goes. It's hair, teeth, and eyeballs time. Ba-boom! The bomber explodes. It is shot down. So Clausen is able to shoot down the bomber in his first pass, which is a good thing. Haas, he has to draw his card, but he can't do any further damage to the bomber because it isn't there anymore. But he can receive damage. The -1 for the destroyed marker, which weakens the defense, for all 4 squares where that bomber used to be, does count. I will do that in a second. First thing I want to do is I updated the Staffellog and the pilot roster to reflect the kill. So now we are up to Haas, who is also level, with now 0 defense, and he is not evasive. So we see that would be a hit going both ways. So this time Haas actually does take that hit. There's no avoiding it. And he goes 2 squares. I did this so that the junior member got the hit. I used the Rots on Clausen, and so that protected him. Haas is not going to be so protected, so he's going to have to make a roll to see if this is going to do something to him. But if the roll is made, it's a saving roll basically, then the counter goes away and there's really not much effect on him. Let's see, now let's go here and let's take a look at what these guys are up to. All right, we have 2 more aircraft. I have not used the Schwarm, so I'm going to use that right away now. There's no reason to hold back. Bayer, my senior guy, is going to go ahead and do his shot. It is defense 2. It would be +1 if they were high. They're not. This is a level attack. It is a determined attack. And let's see, there's 1 loss from the defense because of the loose element. And this bomber, having been lost, does not affect the square that the fighters are doing their attack from, so it doesn't change anything. So we are at a level 1 for defense. We are determined, and that's what we do. And here we see level 1, level, determined is the gray. He flies 2 squares through, he delivers a hit, and he runs out of ammo. And in addition to that, I'm going to throw in the Schwarm. So this is going to be 3 hits on this bomber. Ooh-ah. So Bayer has flown 2 squares past the formation, and so he's gone from here over to there. And I've also updated him to reflect that he has run out of ammunition. And the bomber the target bomber, which I've marked here, has gotten 3 hit counters on it. 2 from the Schwarm and 1 from the attack card. Well, the first one has no chance of being a critical hit. It's a fuselage hit. It delivers 1 point of damage. That's it. End of story. For the other 2, we have to roll equal to or higher than these numbers. So let's do the 8. We have an 8 on an engine hit, an 8 on an engine hit. All right, let's see what it does. It's a 5. No critical hit. It resolves to a 0. But the counter is there. It does mess up the formation, making an already loose formation even potentially worse. The second one, I roll a 2. That also doesn't have any critical effect. Oh my gosh. This guy's got the luck of the Irish. Maybe that's the name of the bomber. I don't know. All right, so Bear really didn't do much. It was exciting, but he didn't do much. And then the final attack from Speck, and it is a hit on both sides and a possible collision, so we have to do a collision avoidance pull. Okay, so each side collects another hit, as well as going 2 squares. The collision resolved to it would be a miss if he was evasive. He's not evasive, so therefore it will be a hit. So he's going to take 2 hits instead of 1. The bomber, it is a 6, so a 6 or more. It's a nasty engine hit. And if he blows the roll, the bomber will drift out of formation and will be considered to be fallen. 1 is rolled, no special effect. Jeez, he's lucky. So 4 draws and he's gotten 1 point. Oh man, this is a lucky Irish bomber. So I have applied a second hit on Speck, and the bomber, well, is for the time being out of jeopardy. And so we have done all 4 of the attack pulls. Next thing we have to do is the continuing fire. So this is the effect of the German interceptors have flown past their target, but they're still in the formation and they're still getting shot at. So this is to resolve what happens after they deliver their attack. So I have pulled 4 continuing fire cards that will apply to these planes. Note that the damage has yet to be resolved on these aircraft. That happens later. Does not happen yet. So we'll start with Clausen. The base for the square is a level 2 threat for the defense of the bombers. He is not in the same element anymore. He left Kansas. He is now in the element down here. He's going to collect that full 2 effect, okay? What this card does is, so it's a level 2, non-evasive, so that's a hit. This is considered to be, he's climbing, remember, and so he's doing this. That's going to add 2 more, and it's still 1 hit. So Clausen is inheriting 1 hit counter, and he now executes his move off map. He's doing a climb maneuver, and it will be executed to the non-evasive return box, the high zone. So the non-evasive return box is here. So he goes to the non-evasive return box. The hit is still with him. The other fighter is also executing his climbing maneuver. So let's take care of that. We're down here. That would be Haas. So it is at a 2 non-evasive. That is also a hit. And this hard roll thing, we're not doing any kind of roll, so this has no effect. One more hit on this guy. Oh, we're getting chopped into salami. So now we have 2 Germans with their hits up in the high return box. Next, oh my goodness, Speck already has 2. Let's see what happens to him. This is not going so good. Well, first off, no hits. If he was an expert, he could actually do some possibility of additional hits, but he's not an expert, so that doesn't happen. But he does escape without any additional hits. So he likewise goes to the high return box. And now we have 3 up there. Next. 1 left. This would be Bear. And his card, no effect. So he escapes without any further hits. He could possibly have been bounced if he was doing some kind of dive maneuver, and there were escorts in the high above trailing box. He escapes without further damage. And so now we have 4 interceptors up in the high return box. 2 of them have 2 hits, 1 of them has 1 hit, and 1 is unhit, but as a special parting bonus, he is out of ammunition. For the bombers, we have destroyed 1 in this firing pass, and we have, this is ridiculous, but okay, we had out of 4 hits, we did a total of 1 point of damage on this guy. He does have 4 markers. That means that formation is going to be very disorganized. It's going from disorganized, it's going to end up kaput sooner or later, I think. All right, but that's it for this turn. But this scenario has not ended yet. That was turn 3. We are now starting turn 4. Turn 4 begins with the movement phase, where the Italians that are hovering around in the 3 o'clock maneuver box go ahead and do their approach at 3 o'clock high so as to be able to attack the bomber stream in the upcoming combat phase. They bring with them the sun markers because they are attacking out of the sun. Next, in the return phase, over to the Germans, who have a whole bunch of damaged fighters. Damaged fighters do not move during the return phase, so basically, even if they pass their damage checks, they're effectively losing a turn, figuring out if anything is wrong with their aircraft. We do have 1 undamaged German, however, he doesn't have any ammunition. So he has the option of exiting the map, doing an RTB, and that's exactly what he's going to do, because without ammunition, he's not going to do a whole lot. Next, the escort phase. Well, we have no escort, so there's nothing to do. Next is the recovery phase, where the Germans are going to resolve their damage rolls to see what happens to all these guys that are still up in the return box. As it happens, all of them passed their tests, so it was a good turn for the Germans, except for Clausen, who actually fails his saving roll for his fuel hit. So what he does is he transfers over to the fate box area into the fuel system damage box. He's done for being on the map in this game. His fate will be resolved at the end of the game to determine what happens to him, his aircraft, as well as his own person. Following that up is the cohesion phase, where we go ahead and roll for the cohesion of the bombers that have taken damage in their various elements. Because of all the damage being carried by our lucky Allied B-24, there's plenty enough there to make them fail, and they in fact do fail and become a kaput element. So now instead of having a -1 on their defensive strength, they are now a much more attractive -2. And so now we're on to the Italians attacking out of the sun. So the Italians have selected their target. They're going after this guy on the flank. They're leaving this guy alone for now. I kind of like having a bomber with 4 markers on it to mess up the integrity of the formation. So let's let that guy stay there for a while. Over here we have 4 Italians coming out of the sun. They're going to get the full effect of the sun, which is going to negate 1 hit on each of the fighters. Each of the Italian aircraft is going to get their own sun counter, so potentially each has their own independent save. We're coming in at high altitude, which is why I got to the 2 blue blocks. We're doing a rolling dive to the right, which means we're going to end up at the nose of the formation, coming in from this angle. The thing that can mess this up is I have to check for collision. Whenever you have 2 or more aircraft in a single square, they have to check for collision. In this case, we have 4, so clearly we do. We get to pick which one it is. They're all identical, so I don't care. Here's the counter. I haven't turned it over yet, so we're going to see this happen at the same time. So this, if we get no impact, we're going to be high-fiving. If we lose an aircraft, that means our schwarm goes away, and I will not be a happy camper. Let's see what happens. Oh, it's an E, and I have to use a tactical point to make it have less effect. This is probably not good. Escape. Pay the tactical point cost, and the fighter breaks away to the tail position, either return box, okay, which would mean in this case high or low, I think is what they're referring to. If you do not pay, the fighter exits instead. So I have, at the beginning, I rolled, what did I roll? I rolled 2 tactical points. I'm using 1 to keep the fighter in the game, but he goes away. So we're not going to have 4 fighters coming in to get the Schwarm bonus, which is a real shame. All right, so this guy's going to go, I can go high or low. I'm going to put him, why not put him high with these German fighters. So he's going to join the Germans up here. And now we have 3 left to resolve this attack. This is done. And we have 3 coming in oblique. The last thing we have to do before executing the attack is resolve the attack advantage. This is what I wanted, but we need 4 in there doing the attack to get this, so we don't get this. A space with 2 or more fighters, that we have. That's going to be another defensive benefit. And each may be earned, say, a position. No, we're not coming in from multiple angles. There's no position advantage. So we have 1 more additional save. So we have the 3. Since they came in determined, it's a 50-50 to save on each of those, and then the rot is for certain. So the situation is that we are coming into a 1-point defense zone. It's also +1 if you have an anchored flank, which we do not have. But we're also entering into a kaput element. That's -2. So this is going to be on the minimum 0 defense. So the defense is really junk here, so hopefully we can at least take advantage of that. All right, so all 3 fighters are identical. So the first fighter, these are all going to be coming in from high. They're going to be non-evasive at 0-point defense. And the first attack, high, 0 defense, results in no hits, a possible collision, and the aircraft goes following through by 2 squares. Now, we have a special situation here, as he's doing a right roll, so he would end up here, but there is no square there. So there's no square here, there's no square there, so instead of going 1, 2, he has to stay where he is, which, as far as he's concerned, that's great, because it's a 0 defense square. We do have to execute the collision chance, so let's take a look. And that comes up. No impact. So the first guy's fine, but he did no damage. Second guy, he's also high. He's also level 0 defense. And he would fly through 2, but again, as I explained, that isn't going to happen here. But he does 1 hit. So he delivers 1 hit, and he runs himself out of ammo. And the hit is a fuselage hit, and critical hit is 8 or more. Let's see it. The resolve to a 5, so there's no critical hit. Now see, this guy, he's not as lucky as his buddy. So he takes 3 points of damage with one pull. You know, that's how lucky this other guy was. All right, last attack. Once again, it is high, it is level 0 defense, and this oblique attack, determined attack, is simply a fly-through. No damage on either side. So, no damage to the fighters. It wasn't that tough as far as that goes. But, and light damage to the bomber, but nothing more. And we lose 1 of them to running out of ammunition. All right. Now the maneuver's been resolved. Now we have to do the continuing fire. So now we have to resolve the continuing fire on each of these 3 fighters that are still here. All right, we're going to do on this first guy. And since it's a level 0 zone, it resolves to nothing. On the determined side even, nothing. And we are not doing a straight dive, we're doing a rolling dive, so this doesn't matter. So the first guy is out of there. And since we did a diving roll to our right from this position, he ends up at the nose. At the nose, 12 o'clock. He ends up in a return box because that's where they go. And since he was non-evasive, he ends up in the non-evasive return box instead of the evasive return box. Okay, let's finish this off. We got 2 more. The guy with the no ammo. Okay, he's not a green pilot, so the special condition doesn't affect him. However, at level 0, it's a hit. But we got lots of ways to get rid of a hit. So we got the sun, so on an odd roll, the hit is gone. It's okay, well I called it. An odd roll, the hit is gone. I think it's supposed to be even, but I called it. We'll roll with it. The hit is gone. The sun is used. So the hit doesn't count. And this guy goes to the return box. And so the out of ammo Italian fighter goes to the return box with his buddy. Last guy, since it is a 0 and it is non-evasive, it is no effect. Clearly good being a 0. Holy smokes, if you were up here, you'd get 2 hits. All right, we're doing a rolling dive, not a regular dive, so there's nothing there to do. Nothing there to do with that one. So all 3 of these fighters survive. They all go to the nose attitude or the nose vector, and they are in the return box. So the result of this firing pass is that we had 3 additional points put on 1 bomber. That's it. As far as the fighters go, we had one guy have a near collision on the way in, and he did an emergency abort and ended up in the tail position, going to be coming in with the German fighters. And the other 3 are down here where they intended to be. None of them are damaged in any way. That's it for turn 4. Turn 5, as always, the first thing we do is move the fighters. But since they are in return boxes and not in these maneuvering boxes, there's nothing to do. So that phase passes. Second one is the return phase. Now we have a bunch to do. Movement, by the way, movement is obligatory in a return box. So you cannot stay where you are. And so they have the option of going here. That's it. There is no option. The guy who's low on ammo, however, does have an option, and he is bugging out. No reason to stay around. He goes off and lands. No reason to update any logs because these guys are temporary help. All right. And over here we have these guys, the Italian and the 2 Germans that are left. They're going to move down to the high. They're going to move down to the high maneuver zone from the tail. So now that's where they are. So that is the return move. No escorts, no recovery, there's no one with hits on them. There's no flak. We have the cohesion rolls for the bombers. Well, as usual, this element only has 1 marker. He blows it on a 1. He got a 6. He's fine. These guys are already at kaput. They can recover from kaput to loose, but once you're loose forever. So we have 4, 5. That's a marker. 6, 7. It's a -2. I'm going to count it as 2. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It could be a 1. It could be a 2. I'm going to say it's a 2. So they have 8 points. So they recover on a 9 or 10. A 2 doesn't do it no matter how you interpret it. All right, so they stay kaput. There's no attacks this turn. That's it for turn 5. Turn 6 starts with the move. There are 7 turns, recall, that we rolled for this scenario. So now it's like, how do I want to end this? It's going to be 1 more attack. I could go in right now. I can go in here right now as going in low. And I can come in here right away high. It doesn't sound like such a bad thing. Or I can maneuver more. You can stay where you are inside of these maneuvering boxes. You just can't stay in a return box. I think I'm going to opt to... there's no fighters to chase me around. I don't have to worry. If there's fighters, then I'd be worried about them bouncing me if I stayed here. But these guys can buzz around all they want. But I'm going to go ahead and come on in. I'm going to have everybody come on in. Let's just see how this goes. And that, no doubt, will end our first encounter. So, in their move, for turn 6, they enter the approach box for the tail high attack. These guys enter the nose attack, the low nose attack position for an attack on the front of the formation. So, let's tick off some more pulses here. We did the move. There's no return. There's no escort. There's no recovery. No flak. There is cohesion. So we have the one guy rolling for a 1. Here. Nope, 9. And this guy's basically rolling for recovery. We set a 9 or a 10 if he would recover. 5, he does not recover. So it stays the same. We're into the attack mode. Let me pick the targets. So what we did is we had the 2 Italian fighters. They're doing a low nose-on attack. So this is 12 o'clock low. We're going to go after a bomber up here, and the Italian that was with the Germans is going to come in by himself with a high tail attack on that same bomber. The 2 Germans are going to go after this Irish bomber to see if we can actually do something to him. The only fighter that's coming in determined is the guy in the tail. If you only have 1 fighter coming in, you don't have to pull a chit for a possible collision. So this guy is going to get to deliver his attack. What we had before, when we had the 4 guys coming in the last run through, they went in determined, and one of the 4 peeled off. So we didn't get the Schwarm attack because of that. If they come in evasive, they're much more likely to get there. All right, so what I did is we have 2 fighters here, 2 fighters there. Each one of those is going to have to do a proximity pull to see if there's a collision. This is the marker here. I'm just going to flip it over, and we get no impact. So that attack is going to be delivered as it was planned. These guys, let's see what they do. No impact. How about that? All right, so we're in good shape. All these aircraft are going to get to do something. Wouldn't it have been nice to get the no impact last time when we had four of them coming in on 1 target? Oh man, I wanted that Schwarm in the worst way. All right, so that's everybody's here. Now I'm going to go through and look at the tactical advantage, get the counter set up so that we see what that's about. So we qualify for position advantage because we have fighters coming in from 2 different directions at different altitudes. You got to have both, and if you do, you get a position advantage marker. We do not get a Schwarm because we don't have 4 attacking, well, for a lot of reasons, one of which we don't have 4 fighters attacking from the same square. All right, let's go ahead and start executing some attacks. Okay, the defensive strength on all these attacks is going to be a 0 because of the kaput starting with a -2. This one up here would have been a 2, but it's not. And this is, since he's in the middle of all the bombers, it would have been a 3, except that the kaput brings it down to a 1. And this bomber, remember, all 4 squares around it are suffering a -1 because that bomber's gone. And this is one of the 4 squares, so the 3 goes to a 0. Everything's a 0 as far as defensive strength. Let's start with the nose attack. Let's take a look at what those Italians are doing. They're doing an evasive attack, low. And so the first guy comes in, and he's got evasive attack low 0, and he just flies through by 1 square. So he doesn't do anything. Everybody's just doing a dive. This is the last of the moves for this encounter. So everybody's just going to bug out after this. Let's see. The next guy is the next nose attack. The Italian guy. It's low. It's evasive. And it's a hit. Okay, so 1 hit on the bomber. And we pull this guy. It's going to require a 10 to have it be a catastrophic hit. The fighters fly 1 square through, so they're actually temporarily in the same place with these other guys. And then we're going to have the continuing fire after this. Let's roll for the critical hit. Roll was a 2, so no critical hit. Next, we've got the tail attacks. Okay, let's finish up this same guy. We got 2 more. We got 1 more Italian coming in with a tail attack, 0 defense, high, and it is a determined attack. Okay. Well, this is a new one. The fighter, who is the only determined guy, he would have done a hit if he was evasive, but no. So he's going to take a hit, and the R means he's riding the tail. So this aircraft has an option of immediately making another attack, or he can fall back into the tail position but not into the return boxes, into the actual tail position, so he can be in a position to attack again next turn. Hey, I'm going to take the attack right now, so we're going to get another tail attack. And that tail attack is a nothing burger. He just flies one hex through and he's done. And let's resolve that fuselage hit. It takes a 10 to blow up this aircraft. It's a 3. So it's just simply going to be damage. 1 point. Nothing much to talk about. And this bomber is surviving. Next, we have 2 Germans also in a tail attack. They're coming in. Both are coming in high. And both are coming in evasive. It's going to be level 0 again. It's going to be, let's have Mr. S is going to do this attack. On the evasive side, they don't show you the name. This is Speck. Lieutenant Speck is going to do the attack. Let's see, it's going to be a 0 defense. It's going to be from the high. It's going to be evasive. Guess what? It's a hit. Cool. All right, so one more hit on the Irish bomber. Usually on these rear attacks, you have very little in the way of advancing. So, he's just back there. It's because the relative velocity is much smaller. If you're coming from the nose, you're going to go flying past them. All right, so we got a 6-banger on this guy. All right, let's roll that thing. Let's roll it. 6 or more, and he drops out of formation. Oops. And a 4. And the Irish bomber is still good. Oh, man. Gee whiz. All right. It's good being Irish. Just ask Charlie, my Irish setter. He enjoys it. All right, so Speck is done. And our last guy is Haas. He's going to be high. He's going to be evasive. And guess what? It's another hit. Well, maybe the luck will finally run out. And I've picked an inconsequential wing hit that's going to deliver 1 point. Ay, ay, ay. This guy's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 markers. And he's only taken 2 points of damage and hasn't blown up or nothing. How about that? All right, so we did all kind of attacks. Now we have to do the continuing fire, which will be the last thing. And officially, this would go into turn 7. But if there's no escorts to do any bouncing, these guys are all just going to bug out. So as soon as this is done, we're just going to close this scenario. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 continuing fires. All right. Starting with this guy. All the defenses are still zeros. This guy is not evasive. He's determined. But it's a level 0. It's a nothing, but he is in the dive. So what does that do? Fall away. If diving, change to evasive. If evasive, skip the fire. So he changes to evasive. Big deal. So it's a no-hit either way. Evasive or not evasive, it's the same deal. This guy's done. He goes home. He lands. Again, officially this would happen in a progression of phases. It would happen the next turn, but there's no way he can get shot at this point. So I'm just going to call it here. All right. This guy. And he is evasive, and it's also level 0. Evasive, it would have been a hit if he wasn't evasive, but he was evasive. Nothing. He's just in a standard dive, so this is a no effect. He is doing this, not this. Okay? All right, we have Mr. Speck. He's also evasive. He's also level 0. Okay. Nothing but we are in a regular dive, so what's the deal? Fall away. Okay, change to evasive. Well, it doesn't matter in this case. Both are not a hit, so he's getting away. He's going to land. I will update the logs accordingly. Next, Mr. Haas. And there's no hits. He's not climbing. He just gets away. He's going home to land. Last guy. He's also evasive. And it's also a 0, and he's not climbing into the sun. So it's it. All right. Oh, there's 2 of them. This guy and the last guy. And it's a 0, and there's a possibility, if there were enemy fighters in the above trailing box, that's here, so they're not even officially on the map yet, they would bounce him. There was a chance he would get bounced, but we have no escorts, so this guy is going home to land. So all these guys are safe at home. So to sum up, well, we shot down 1 bomber in spectacular fashion. However, with the luck of the Irish, we did not do anything substantial to the lead bomber of this element. And we beat up this guy a little bit more, but it takes 10 points to shoot him down, and we had no spectacular fireworks with him either. So the only thing we did is shot down 1 bomber. Since this is an outbound mission, that gets us 1 point. Remember, in the 6 missions, we have to get at least 10 to avoid losing, let alone the 20 it takes to win. So from a victory point perspective, this mission was really not all that great. And aside from updating the logs with the results of the mission, including the 1 shoot down and all the successful landings for our squadron mates, we do have the matter of Clausen here. He ended up in the fuel box, so he's going to see if something really bad happens to him. He is going to roll on the first table, which we see, you got to look at the column. So let's get this so it's easy. All right, FW-190s. So he lands successfully on an 8, 9, or 10. Other than that, it could get kind of spectacular here. Here we go. I rolled an 8. So even Clausen lands successfully with avoiding other kinds of fireworks that would be probably bad for him. So outside of updating the logs, the first mission is concluded. Well, that will be about all for today. If you have enjoyed my work and have yet to subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. It strengthens both your link to the channel as well as making the channel itself stronger going forward. And as always, I wish you all a pleasant evening. Thanks for watching.